Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in Mackey Arena. The other side of Mackey Arena this time. I have been displaced. Apparently, the thousands of people over here in my normal area were not here to try to photobomb my rap video. They're here for apparently somebody signs autographs after these games. Anyway, so I'm over on the other side of the arena doing your rap video following Purdue's 80-53 win over Eastern Kentucky. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel for your support. As always, we appreciate it. I don't have a whole lot to say about this particular basketball game, nor do I feel it's all that necessary in the grand scheme of things, the big picture of things, other than to say Purdue did what you want Purdue to do in games like this. Style points really aren't all that important unless you have a rooting interest in these games that goes beyond your fandom. If perhaps there's some other incentive that you have on the line, whatever that incentive may be. Maybe there's an app on your phone that you use during games, things like that incentivize and keep you captivated by the outcomes of these college basketball games. I'm not entirely sure. But unless you have some sort of ulterior motives about rooting for certain outcomes, Purdue not scoring 100 points against these guys, really not that big a deal. Purdue, turned the ball over a little bit early, and that kind of took them off track. Why I'm talking about the importance of scoring 100 points, I'm not really sure. I'm still acclimating to this other side of the arena. But Purdue turned the ball over a little bit early on. Really in the second half, it wasn't until the second half. See, they just saw me over here. It wasn't until the second half Purdue really got rolling offensively, I didn't think, in terms of getting Ross-Ade involved. That's his name. I couldn't remember. Getting Ross-Ade involved, Braden Smith really started wheeling and dealing, and Cam Heide made another mixtape in the second half. It's growing and growing and growing. But this game played out as it should have. Purdue continually, no real issues with backcourt pressure, things like that. They did commit some turnovers. I don't think it was symptomatic of them struggling with backcourt pressure. I'm going to keep bringing that up every time Purdue sees it because I think it's something people tend to gravitate toward when it happens. I think Purdue's been fine in that regard. I think Lance Jones has a lot to do with it. I think you saw today, too, his ability to accelerate and get to the basket when he has an angle really matters for this team offensively, part of what it has really completed it, stuff like that. But as I mentioned before, the results of this particular game really don't matter as much as the big picture of where Purdue is heading into a kneecapped Big Ten right now, Big Ten that looks right there, ripe for the picking for Purdue, as well as the really, really notable accomplishment for Purdue, going undefeated 3 straight non-conference regular seasons. There's only so much I can say about that without having to qualify it. But yes, Purdue has to still, to some extent, validate itself in March. But you can separate that from the fact that Purdue has not lost a non-conference game in 4 years, I guess. They've won 35 in a row. You have to frame that up against how Matt Painter's been scheduling in order to sweet-talk the computers to give his team the best chance of getting the seeds, the placement that they'd want in the NCAA tournament. But this has been no joke Purdue has faced each year in these, I guess I should have used a plural term there. These last 3 years, these non-conference schedules have been no jokes. No joke. Collectively, no joke. Individually, no jokes. You look at the list of teams here. You look at the list of events Purdue's won. You've got Duke on there. You've got North Carolina on there. You've got Villanova on there. You've got Gonzaga twice. You've got Arizona. You've got Marquette. Marquette's been really good. You've got Tennessee on there when Tennessee's been really good. You've won the Maui Invitational this year. This was the most loaded Maui Invitational, the most loaded MTE ever assembled. You won the Hall of Fame thing a couple years back with Carolina and Villanova there. Those were the two preeminent events really in those individual years. And Purdue won them PK 85 last year. Again, probably the preeminent event of the college basketball season. You beat West Virginia, you beat Duke, you beat Gonzaga. Just Purdue is really, I keep saying this, again, it's, you can separate March from December and November and December, to do it in order for you calendar sticklers. What Purdue has done in these non-conference seasons has been the body of work of an elite program. No two ways around it, and it's just a really big time feat for Purdue. Really, it's a statistical footnote. I had no idea that Syracuse and UCLA were not UCLA. Syracuse and Duke were the only two programs, according to Purdue, in the last 50 years to have done this. 3 straight unbeaten non-conference regular seasons. Guessing UCLA probably did it back in the Wooden days. And 5 years from now, if you ask your typical college basketball fan who are the programs who've done this in the last however many years, no one will say, no one will know the answer. Less likely, no one will say Purdue, unless Purdue goes on from here to go to Final Fours, win national titles, continue just rolling through its schedules, which is very possible, because I think Purdue is set up for a lot of success here. But I think that this was a really notable deal here for Purdue. Very important to note, not the destination for this team. Obviously, it aspires to much more than just being the team that went undefeated in 3 straight non-conference regular seasons. I think the first 2 of these 3 teams, I think they peaked early. This one has not played its best basketball yet. This one has not peaked. 2 years ago, Purdue didn't defend. They didn't guard anybody. That team wasn't mature enough to do the things it really, really could have done had it been a little bit different in its approach to things. Last year's team, it just wasn't their shot. This year is their shot, but last year, having 2 freshman guards, I just don't think they were ready. I think this year, those 2 guards being all grown up, having Lance Jones as sort of a final piece of the puzzle type of player, having a little bit more scoring, a lot more maturity, a lot more experience, plus the scars and the toughened skin that have come through disappointment, losing, etc. I think Purdue's best is still kind of yet to come. That doesn't mean Purdue's going to go undefeated in the Big Ten. That's likely not going to happen. The Big Ten's kind of a different deal, kind of a different animal. But it does mean, Purdue quite possibly has not played its best basketball yet, and there's more to give. And you'll see a more March-ready team, I think, this year than you did either of the last 2 seasons. I think it's comes with the territory here that everything has to be couched in March, and Purdue obviously can't get too far ahead of itself here. There's a Big Ten championship to be won. Purdue will be the heavy favorite there, especially in light of what may or may not be going on at Illinois, unfortunately. But Purdue's got a lot left to do this season, and the fact that Purdue is again unbeaten in non-conference regular season play, that's a big deal, but it is not the deal. And I think Purdue will obviously carry itself accordingly. This is not a team that's been really satisfied, I don't think, with doing what it's done the last 2 years, and I don't think this team will be satisfied. I think this is a very motivated, a very quietly confident team, a very experienced team, a very wise team. Again, a team toughened by its past, stuff like that. And now it's kind of time to prove it here. So that's what I got from a win over Eastern Kentucky. From Richmond, Kentucky, home of a new Buc-ee's. As you all know, I'm a significant proponent of Buc-ee's. If you're ever passing through Richmond, Kentucky, you'll have to stop there. Anyway, I'm also a huge proponent of the Purdue Club Hotel, and I think that's another place you ought to stop when you're passing through town. Next time you're at Purdue, for whatever reason, whether it's to come to a football game, come to a basketball game, to stand in line between 2,000 people waiting for Zach Eady's autograph, you should stay at the Purdue Club Hotel. Thank you to them for their support once again. Thank you to all of you. And once again, from Purdue's 80 to, I don't even know the score, 80 to 53. 80 to 53 win over Eastern Kentucky. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, even if those materials are coming from the other side of the arena and not the normal backdrop that you've come accustomed to over these many seasons of this riveting internet content. So thank you, everybody.